Hey, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of Book It or Release. And you're back again with Ray and Chris. And so,
Yo.
last episode, we just touched on briefly that during this COVID time, uh, Ray and I have been going on interviews for potential jobs in the production world. And the interview process is certainly changed quite a bit um, since years past. Obviously, with COVID, none of the interviews have been in person. A lot of them have been on like Zoom calls and over the phone and things like that. And both Ray and I have had kind of interesting experiences just recently in going on interviews with companies. Both of us, with full expectations that we were pretty damn close to getting our positions that we interviewed for. So at this time, Ray, I'll hand it off to you, and you could just, if you don't mind, share your story that on this one job that you went for.
Yeah. Let me start by saying that we all understand what COVID has done, right? Something totally unexpected, something that has affected everyone, not just us, everyone, right? Businesses included, understanding that. My experience is probably going to go even before COVID happened. You know, I do like everybody else does. I have a LinkedIn profile. It's not full of fluff. It's pretty much everything that I've done in the 20 some odd years that I've been in the business, right? A lot of it private. My probably the NBC was the only corporate place that I went to. And and I felt that I was successful in each of those places. I I was given a responsibility. I did that responsibility. I felt that I'd done it well. And the more I did it, the better I got at it. But this experience now feels so weird. Like, even though you have the experience, you're not given the opportunity to show it for one reason or another, not knowing why. Because you have all the qualifications, right? They give you a list of, they post a posting now. Doesn't matter what company it is. The posting to me seems a little bit long. That one
You
person,
think?
that one person can do everything on this 2-page layout of what they want.
It's almost like they're covering their ass that, well, when you took the job, you knew because we said in the requirements that you would,
Right.
sweep up on Thursdays.
Yeah.
What?
In the middle of trying to produce 3 social spots, 3 web spots, 5 radio spots, and 2 TV spots. In the midst of all that. That being said, okay, they lay it out. You look at it, you break it down. When you have the conversation, because obviously it always starts, you talk to the human resource person. They want to get a feel for who you are. If they feel that that conversation goes well, they send you off to the hiring manager that put the position up. So I've gone through, especially during COVID, 9 interviews, 9 different companies, where I was for sure in my head that I would have gotten at least one of them. Right? Not to be overly confident, not to be. The first company that I interviewed with was for a post producer. But the way they broke down the description didn't seem like a post producer in the sense that you actually had to go out of the shoots, you had to make sure everything was clear. It was more of a project manager. And I understood that. I got it.
Hmm.
I get the interview. I'm excited. So excited. I speak to the human resource person one week. I speak to the person that posted the job the following week. Then I speak to the team. Now, this is 3 weeks in. I speak to the team. And then the last conversation is with the director of the department. I go through all 4 stages and everything seems positive. Like, there's no way I'm not getting this, right? Then I get, I think after the last interview in this first company, and we're being vague and we're being respectful of the companies because we don't want to harm anyone.
And who knows, they may want to hire us one day.
Right? Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But after this company, I again, 5 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks went by. Have the last interview. The last interview lasted an hour and 30 minutes. It was a 90-minute conversation. It didn't even feel like an interview at this point. It just felt like we were talking about things. It felt like we were talking the same language. It was even to the point that they discussed, he goes, how is it going to affect you and your family if you have to travel? My response was, my wife will love it because she knows she's going to travel somewhere, right? Yeah. The person laughed and goes, my wife loves it too, because we usually get a day before we start and the day after any long business trips that we go to. But he made it clear. It's not all year round. It's maybe 20, 30%, throughout the year, maybe 7 conferences. Okay, cool. I said, I have no problem with it. I'm willing to adjust whatever it is. I'm willing to roll with it. He says, great, Ray, it was great talking to you. It was very comfortable. 90 minutes conversation. That's rare, right? Usually their time, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
They clock it.
Right.
I hear nothing for 2 to 3 weeks afterwards. Nothing. Crickets. This was my first deflating. I get an email from the human resource. Oh, Ray, they decided to go with someone else. So I asked the question. Can I get some feedback as to what could I have done better? What could I have done better? Because you always have room to improve. And I even learned that. Doesn't matter what you know, but there's place. Did I say something incorrectly? Tell me what could I improve? No feedback whatsoever. But I did get an email from the director of the department, which was very nice, very heartfelt, very direct. He goes, it had nothing to do with you. I actually felt like I was on a date. Like when a chick says it's not you, it's me. That's how I felt for a brief moment. But when I read it, I got it. He was being honest. And,
Did he give a reason?
He said they went with somebody internally, someone that they've already known. I could respect that. I'm good for upward movement. I'm good for that. But why did it take so long?
Why did it take so long?
And don't get me wrong, I know that inside part of it. When you know you're going with someone internally, you do the interviews, you don't drag it out, you go along because I believe you have to do it. Mm-hmm. You have to give the opportunity to see if there's someone qualified from the outside to do it. I think that I'm not sure if it's a rule, but I know it's something that they do. But they tell you right away, no, thank you so much for the time. We're going to go with someone else. Like they cut it real quick. It's like they just rip that Band-Aid off and it's over. Yeah. You don't wait 5 or 6 weeks.
No.
You don't go through 5 rounds of interviews. You don't have a 90-minute conversation with someone just for the hell of it.
Right. I mean, clearly there's something there if they're spending all that effort and time into you.
It's crazy. So
frustrating.
Frustrating. So that has seen, and mind you, I think that went for 4 other interviews the same way.
God.
After that. So I held off doing anything else at this time because once we started reopening up again, a lot of jobs were getting posted.
Yeah.
A lot of people are looking, So I figured this would be the best time to reintroduce myself, put myself in that game to get some, get some footing where I could get back in.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go to regular people that I knew because I really didn't want to go back to a private owned place. Because if anyone's going to struggle, they're going to struggle. I think in those sense, right? It's not what it used to be. The game now is with the agencies that have a post house in them. Why not bring what I know to that? And knowing that I've been able to adapt, I could adapt to anything. And I say that like if I'm in an interview now, I could adapt to anything if I'm given the chance.
Right.
Plain and simple. It's not that hard for me. Whatever I know, good. I know it, but I want to learn your way, in your space, your culture, whatever your workflow is, I want to be part of. And if there's anything I can contribute to it and you ask, I will contribute. If you want me to go along, I'm going to go along with it.
Right.
Plain and simple. I'm going to get the job done. So that's how it went for me. That's how it's gone. And it's deflating.
Yeah. I mean, and in the past, you've never had to deal with anything like this remotely, right? Like 5-6 weeks. I mean, before this, what was the longest that you had to go through between interview and either getting the job or not getting it?
I think us speaking about this in our introduction in the last episode that we did, I think our approach was this. You said it. You even hit on it a couple of times. You were in California. You sent a resume. You came to New York. You interviewed. They hired you on the spot. That seemed to have been the format for every job you had after that.
Yep. And some of them I didn't even have to interview. Some of them, the job was offered to me while I was working somewhere else.
Great, right? So we understand things change. We understand that nothing stays the same, right? We understand that a lot of people that are not in the business cannot relate to the change that has happened in the business because they just couldn't see the picture.
Yeah.
We're able to see that picture. The landscape has changed, and we're willing to adapt to that landscape, but not to the point where you're pretty much stabbing somebody, keeping the blade in from it bleeding out, and it sounds like you're exaggerating, but that's how it felt sometimes.
Tell me about it, dude. Oh my God.
That's how it felt for me. Because mind you, after that first interview, I literally was on a roll. Like I had 7 other companies that I was interviewing all at the same time for this practically the same position in each of the companies. Mm-hmm. To the T, everything that I know. And I prefaced each and every interview, I am willing to learn whatever your culture is at your company.
Right.
I know what I know, but that's just going to make certain things easier. Because as big as this business is also small because you interact with a lot of the same people.
Oh,
so God, eventually, yeah. I'm going to cross paths with people that I know. Right? So that's going to make it a lot easier. It just felt like I got stabbed so many times. And I got deflated. And then you begin to question yourself. What am I doing wrong?
Exactly.
What am I doing wrong? What more can I do to improve in that?
Right.
Like how much? Like I'm not here to. Mind you, people have told me you need to change your resume for each place you go to. I said I can't. I couldn't do that. I said no. I said I've gotten to interview with each of the same resumes that I sent out, right?
Yeah.
I got the interview. You're going to tell me now because of my resume, I didn't get the job? But yet in each instances with these companies, however long the rounds have been of discussions, not one, something's wrong.
Yeah. Something's wrong or something changed.
something changed that maybe maybe I'm neglecting to look at, right? But I'm realizing that it's just not you and me. If you go on LinkedIn, there's this one person, her name is Bridget. I don't know her last name, but I want to get it right. She posts at least once a week experiences of other people of that same kind. Why are you waiting 2 months to let somebody know they're not getting a job?
Right.
It's tough. So that's when I realized that it's just not me. So that being said, you have had the same experience in the last couple
2
of
months. Yeah.
Right.
So I've been sending resumes out, and I've had a couple of interviews here and there. And for the most part, I would find out pretty quickly. There was one for a popular exercise company, and the recruiter called me and had a great interview, lasted about 45 minutes. And she's like, "Great, I'll set up another interview to have you talk with the manager of the department. We'll set it up for next week at some point." I find out like 4 days later, "Sorry, we're going to go with a different candidate." Like, okay. At least they told me pretty quickly. But so this last one, uh, I send out resumes, and from time to time, I don't even remember that I actually send out resumes for specific jobs. So I get an email, and I'm looking at it, and I turn to my wife, and I show her the email. I'm like, "Do you think this is real?" And it was from the recruiter at this. I won't give the name, but a major news organization, and they have a whole audio department where they're pushing podcasts and everything audio. So and the position was like right in my wheelhouse. It was audio production, it was advertising, it was essentially like radio production. And so
Everything you've
I
done.
everything, and
To the T.
you know yeah, I mean, through my career, done the advertising. I was an engineer. I worked at a news organization. It's like there wasn't any aspect of this position that I had not already done before. You know, so um, so I meet with a recruiter. We do a phone call interview that lasted 45 minutes. Went really, really well. Felt so positive about it when it was done. A day later, she contacts me. She's like, "I want you to now interview with one of the managers of the department." So she sets up an interview for a week later. And I have another 45-minute conversation where it was awesome. Like, I loved talking to this dude.
You were
We were
excited.
talking, oh my God, we were talking shop. We were talking about the position. We were talking about, uh, everything that was audio and podcast, and like, it,
You were
it
confident.
was,
It
it,
was it
it,
was
I
flawless.
was, and to quote this person, he's he actually said to me, he's like, "I really like you. You have a New York cockiness to you." And I was like, "Thanks." Like, oh no, a New York arrogance to me. That's what it was. Yeah, I'm like, "Oh, okay, thanks." So, and as we were ending the conversation, he's like, "This is not the last time you and I are going to talk." He's like, "Full disclosure, I loved our conversation."
Awesome.
So did I.
Awesome.
So a week goes by. 2 weeks go by. I hear nothing. So I
Uh,
reach out to the recruiter. I'm like, "Hey, anything going on?" I hear nothing from the recruiter. I reach out to my interview number two. I'm like, "What's going on?" He gets back to me. He's like, "Things have changed with the position, but I want to keep the conversation going. I need you to have a interview with another one of the managers and the hiring manager as well." So
so let me stop you there. So at
yeah,
this point, are you having any doubts whatsoever? Because you and I had a conversation off the grid because we've always checked on each other outside of text. Hey, are you good or whatever? And we always said that what's important is our careers, right? That even if we got our careers, we still were going to attempt to do something. But your sister gave you some advice,
right.
right? Your sister said something to the point of you're still in the running,
Right. You're in it until you're not.
right? and your sister came up with that. And you know what? You telling me what your sister told you, I hear your sister telling me the same thing, even
Mm,
though she didn't tell it to me directly. But
yeah,
that gives me the vote of confidence, right? If I didn't hear
sure.
from them, that means I'm still in the running. So at
Yeah,
this point, are you feeling doubt, or are you still like confident based on that first conversation that, you know what, this was awesome? You're not. It's not the last time you're gonna hear from me.
right. Well, I mean, if it's based solely on my interactions with the two people so far at this point, I'm feeling 100% confident. But if you take into consideration the amount of time that has passed
Right.
since my initial contact, I mean, a little doubt, sets in. If they loved me, why not? Why wouldn't things move quicker? So I guess, when he said that the job is changing a little bit, but wants to keep the conversation going, I, it, I guess essentially, they had something in mind, but then in the process of meeting with me to the last point, things have changed a little bit. So, okay, fine, but at least, I'm still in it. So I meet with another manager a week later. Uh, Another great conversation. Another Jersey guy, and I did a little research before, and I saw where he lives on his LinkedIn
I've done
shows
the same thing.
hometown and stuff, and so I was able to make points of reference on his hometown. Uh, Conversation went great. A week later, I have a conversation ultimately with the boss. And she was out of the DC office of this news organization. Another great conversation. And like the whole conversation went as if I already worked there. Like she was using language like, so you'll be working with this person, or, this is what you will have to do, or, when you do this, you will be working with this person. So like it was just the language alone was now building me up even more,
You had
and
it in the
now,
bag.
yeah, like there's no way I'm not getting it now. This is fantastic. Um, and so we're about a month in now.
A month.
A month
A
in.
month.
Now, keep in mind, I've had 4 interviews now over a month. Total amount of time lapsed was probably about 2.5 to 3 hours of interview time so far now.
Right.
2 weeks go by, I hear nothing. So I, I reach out to the recruiter again, and I'm like, hey, I've had 4 interviews. Is anything else? And also keep in mind, not only do they have my resume and my LinkedIn information, but I also created a portfolio of some of my best work that I've done. Created a whole YouTube page with all of my commercials, so they can actually go there and see a whole array of things that I've done,
Right.
from comedy to serious to PSAs to you know everything possible. So they get a good sense of what I'm working on. Finally, the recruiter. No, actually, it's not the recruiter. Somebody else from the department, I guess, must have been an administrative assistant, who now is looking for my schedule for the following week to have 4 more interviews. 4 more. So I give her a day that works for me. And so she sets up 4 interviews back to back, all in one afternoon. So I meet with 4 more people.
All via Zoom.
Yeah, yeah, we're all like staring at each other. As a matter of fact, at one point, interview number 3 was still on with me. Then interview number 4 pops on the screen. And it's like, okay, this guy's leaving now. The next one is up.
Mhm.
Um, and so another 2 hours of interviewing with these folks. Now, keep in mind, every person I spoke with at this company was awesome. They were professional. They knew what they were talking about. They had a passion for the company, which makes this so much more difficult because I could tell that they loved working at this place. And, after doing a job for 14 years at BBDO and loving it and knowing that that was the greatest job I ever had, talking to these people and getting that same kind of sense of passion and love for what they did and working for the company that they work for made it so much more attractive to me as well.
I
And
understand that. I
yeah,
understand that.
and again, the conversations we had were fantastic. I loved talking with these folks, and I was getting excited in my head to actually be working with them.
How can
Like,
you not? How
right,
can you
like,
not at that point?
but and just like clicking with people, it was just it felt good. It felt really good. So, a week goes by, and so interview number two reaches out to me, and he's thanking me, for all the time I've put in so far with all the interviewing, and he asks me. He says, "We'd like you to do a project for us. We would like you to produce a 30-second audio spot for one of our podcasts." Gives me a brief synopsis of the podcast, and a brief synopsis on the requirements for the commercial that they'd like me to write, record, edit, and produce for them. Now, I when this is first asked of me, I'm excited because I love this stuff. I love production. I love
Again,
the
how
challenge.
can you not? It's
Right.
in your wheelhouse.
Right. I love the script writing. I love, recording and editing and that whole thing. Anyway, so I get this assignment. And so, I want it to be good. So I become an expert on the host of this show, because one of the things that one of the interviewers said to me was, the hope is to have the host of the show record the promos, mostly because we wouldn't have to pay them to do it.
Right.
So I wanted to over deliver. I wanted to do a 30-second promo where it was straight announcer, and I wanted to do a 30-second promo in the voice of the host of the show, like, "Hi, I'm blah, blah, blah."
Right.
And so I became an expert on this guy. I read segments of his books. I listened to every one of his podcasts. I watched interviews with him just so I could see how he speaks, see, words that he uses, things like that, because if it's going to be him talking, I want it to sound like him talking.
Now, so let me ask you this. In the midst of you thinking of that, you have a YouTube reel,
Yep.
right? Of all your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Radio, and it was all primarily radio, correct?
Yeah. Again, this is an audio position I was going for,
Okay.
so I
But your
created it
reel,
specifically for this.
right? But your reel on YouTube is all radio, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. You somebody's been around the block.
A couple
Right?
times. Yeah.
You have a couple of times. 14 years is nothing to sniff at. You've done it at a major agency. Have you ever heard of anybody asking you to do a project? Like
Never.
at this point right now, between the verbiage between interview number 3 or 4, where they talking to you as if you're in the bag, and then, hey, we just need you to do this one thing.
Right.
It was just like a routine thing, like, no worries, this is just a routine. It's like a reference letter.
Yeah.
Let me see if we're giving you this, whether it's perfect or not, because it's still very vague, whatever instructions they're giving you.
Yeah.
They're expecting you to do each facet.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now, I will say this though. I think it was interview number 6 where the manager was saying, I've talked with the team and we may need you to, like, just to see your writing skills, if you can write and just record yourself reading the script, just to see what your writing style is like. But it was glossed over, and it wasn't something that was like, we are going to ask you to do this to get the job. So that was kind of like in the back of my head when they asked me to officially do this. And by the way, like, they gave me this project on the Thursday before 4th of July weekend. And they're like, we need this by July 7th. And I'm like, okay. So 4th of July weekend is shot to hell.
You pretty much right now in your mind, I got this job. Let me just put this in the bag.
Yeah, exactly. So so Thursday I spend all day my research. Friday I'm doing research, and then I start writing the scripts. Now, once I did all my research, the flow of the scripts came pretty naturally. So again, me wanting to over deliver, I did 2:30s with cut downs. So I did 2:30s, 2:15s, and 2:05s. They didn't ask for cut downs, did it anyway. Just show them I could do it. Yeah. And so I recorded it myself, and I'm like, this could be better, you know? So I reach out to one of my professional union actor friends over 4th of July weekend, and I'm like, hey, would you mind recording these scripts for me? He's like, well, I'm about to leave for the Jersey Shore for the weekend, but let me grab my mic and computer and I'll record it while I'm down there. I'm like, oh, dude, thank you. Yeah. So I send them the scripts, and he's down at the shore, and he records the stuff for me and sends it back. And me being, the perfectionist producer, I'm like, shit, I want to give him direction, but I don't want to screw up his weekend. So I thank him, and I'm like, if you've got time when you get back, I'd love to re-record these. And he's like, absolutely. So he gets back, and I go over to his house, and he's got the booth there, and I give him just a little bit of direction, and boom, he nails it. I'm like, oh, this is so good. And he goes through all the scripts, and I bring the audio home, and I spend the next 3 or 4 hours editing everything together, making it perfect, putting in music and syncing up the hits and all that stuff.
I want to hear it. I want to hear it off camera. I want to hear
it. And I'm like, I'm proud of it. I'm like, this is good. And you know what? I even used music that allows them, if they wanted to, they can actually air the spots. So there's no legal reason why they can't. I would just have to throw my buddy a couple $100, as a quote unquote buyout. But basically they can run these spots if they wanted to.
God, I hope
not. So I get it to them a day early. So
okay.
So I produce the spots. I send MP3s with the Word document of the scripts. They get back to me within an hour. They're like, Chris, thank you for this. We'll get back to you very soon. Now, keep in mind, we're about 7 weeks into this whole thing now. And I hear nothing at all. I reach out to the recruiter, and I'm like, hey, I did all this work. I had all the interviews. Is there any update? Do you have any more interviews for me? Anything else I could do to help the decision making on this? Hear nothing. And then all of a sudden, this past Tuesday night, out to dinner with my wife and mother-in-law and my kids for my wife's birthday. And I get an email, and we're sitting at the restaurant. I just open up my phone. I take a look at it, and immediately all the blood rushes from my head. Chris, I spoke with the team. Unfortunately, they're not able to extend an offer at this time. And she goes into an explanation of they are changing the description of the position to be more like technically fitting for a podcast specific candidate. And I just look at it. I just put my phone down, and now I'm just like, I'm in and nothing I could do. Yeah, I'm done. I'm like, I just sit there, and I'm just like, and my wife looks at me. She's like, you all right? I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I don't want
her. You didn't tell her right there.
Yeah, I didn't want to ruin her dinner.
No, of course not. And the fact that they're pulling for us.
Yeah.
The fact that they're pulling for us. Yeah.
And she knows, and she's like, you'll tell me later. I'm like, yeah, I'll tell you later. Yeah. And so we get home. Yeah. So we get home, and I turn to her, and I'm like, I didn't get it. And the look of shock on her face, I mean, I think she felt that I had it more than I did. But so
I felt that you had it, and I, our conversations off recording and all that via text.
Yeah.
And I want everybody to know this. And this has been the only thing that I've changed. And I have to maintain this always. People are important to me. and they will always be important to me. Their success is my success, even if I have nothing to do with it. And for anybody to go through this round of stuff with the talent that you have and the experience, it's not just to say that. I think what hurts more is the time spent. It's not that you didn't get it. Like if you would have done this 2 weeks in versus 7 or 8 weeks in,
Right.
a huge difference.
Yeah. Oh my God, absolutely a huge difference. I mean, the thing that killed me was the amount of time. And it was, highs and lows. Like I'd have a great interview and then I wouldn't hear anything for a week. Then I'd have another great interview and I wouldn't hear anything. Like so it's just like it's exhausting.
At this point, what are we fighting for?
I don't know.
How does doubt not creep in?
Believe me, for every interview I go on in the future, I am not I'm gonna have zero expectations, and it
like
sucks.
we're just going through the motions.
Yeah,
we're just going through the motions.
Right, and it's like, well, if I get it, I get it. Great. If not, well, whatever.
How encouraging is it to go to the next one? Like how
it's not.
And granted, don't listen. I want everybody to know, whoever is going to listen to this, there's better people out there that may do the job better than I do. Right? There's no doubt. I can't say that, but I know what I bring to the table.
Yeah.
And for you to see that, you have to experience that. I don't care what my resume says. I don't care how many years. You have to get to know someone. You have to give that a chance if you want to give it a chance. And I get it. Look, everything is subjective. You could figure out some things and some go, but 7 weeks?
8 weeks and 5 hours of interviewing 8 different people. And I did the job, as a project for them.
And the verbiage, the conversations, they didn't feel like interview conversations.
No.
Is that a new norm thing? Because I got to be honest. I had one interview with an agency from the city, right? It was a Zoom call with 7 people at the same time.
Good God. Granted,
again, it's COVID. Everybody's home. Everybody's doing whatever. Everybody's trying to do the best that they can.
Yeah.
Now, I've always said that this business that we were in should have been in that position way before COVID. Right? The work-home life thing. I can't say work-home life balance because most of these people that work in these production houses and these post houses and these internal houses, they known each other. They've worked together in other places. And I get that concept because there's no place working at AE Media. From when I worked, I brought in a friend of mine named Mike Morrell. Mike Morrell is a talented audio engineer. He was also a director at SAE. SAE was a school for people to go to get their trade in audio recording and all that stuff. He was the director for that school.
Wow.
This guy left that job. He went off, did other things, came back. He called me up out of the blue. I was like, Mike, I got something for you. It may not be exactly what you want. And I'll be honest with you, Chris. If I was ever to get in a position where I'm able to make decisions to hire people, that dude would be my right-hand man in operations. Because he's that dead on. So on top of being an audio engineer, a good businessman, a good person, maybe quirky at times, because everybody has their quirks, right?
In this industry, everybody does.
Right. This industry is not based on, there's guys with, you're judging a book by its cover when you shouldn't, because you never turn the pages. Sounds weird, but this particular dude, I would hire him in a heartbeat to back me up in any operations that I do. As confident as I would say, if I was to get into a position and I know I needed an audio producer, go with, like, how many audio engineers that we know that we know for a fact that we will call in a heartbeat.
Oh my God, yeah.
And let me put it even this perspective. If Peter Fish was alive today, don't you think we call Peter for certain things?
Oh my God, without a doubt.
Who else would we call? We would call Dave Porter. I haven't spoken to Dave Porter since National. Now
Yep.
Dave Porter is one of these guys that he composed Breaking Bad, Never Call Saul, all this stuff. But never mind that. The dude was an amazing person.
Yeah.
That gives you the ability to do anything. And don't get me wrong, I've seen the bad stuff in this business, but I've never seen it this bad. And
So-
I don't want anybody to take out of context that we're complaining. It's
I'm
just
complaining.
it's changed. The landscape has changed. Are we
Yeah.
missing something? Because, like I said, I had that interview with 7 people. We were all talking the same language. Same language, like everything from how we do things or whatever. I don't hear nothing for 2 weeks, and I get the same thing, like 2-3 weeks. Oh, we're going with somebody else. Give me a little bit of feedback as to why.
Right. Something
That I could build on to give me some closure that, and I don't want you to satisfy my question with just telling me fluff. I want you to be honest.
Yeah.
Like that I could be better.
I mean, and also, is it going to be normal to ask somebody to actually perform the job before getting it? Like, again, that's what a portfolio is for. That's what professional references are for.
Right.
Again, I'm not complaining that I had to do it. Because I love doing that stuff.
You enjoy doing it.
Yeah, I just question, like, what's the purpose of it? Like, what good is my portfolio? What good are my professional references? What good is my previous experience? Why not cut to the chase and say, hi, Chris, I'm the recruiter. This is the position. Do this project for us, and then we'll have interviews after that. It's like
then tell me that you're not looking for someone with my qualifications then.
right.
It's so weird to look at it, because when I look at it now, I'm like, okay, you're putting a description of everything you want. I could check off every box. I may not have contract negotiation skills, right? With SAG or with AFTRA, which I do, but
Me too.
right. Let's say that I don't have that one thing.
Yeah.
Out of 25, I'm missing one thing. Because I tell you, I had an interview where they focused just on one thing. I had 25 specific qualities that they were looking for. I didn't have the SAG and AFTRA in detail of what they wanted. I didn't get the job.
Because
and then
of that.
I asked the person, and I go, were you not willing to train somebody in that? Has that aspect of the job gone away? Are you expecting somebody to jump in that seat and just get it? Because look, the one thing I learned is I don't care what you know in this job. It may be the same job, but it's done differently somewhere else. They have to teach you that culture. They have to teach you that approach, and you have to pick up on it, which I'm okay with. I know how to get to the finish line. Tell me what you're looking for to get there. Or does my resume tell you that maybe I'm able to replace you if I get in there?
Now that's interesting. That's interesting.
You get what I'm saying? It's like, maybe this guy's too, because I hate the word overqualified. I don't think no one's overqualified for anything.
Agreed.
It's just less that you have to worry about, that you don't have to overlook my shoulder constantly. So what are you looking for? And that's where I say, and now mind you, and I preface this in the beginning. The business seemed to be changing way before COVID. Right? You were lucky enough to still be working at BBDO. Maybe if COVID didn't happen, maybe you still be at BBDO.
I had full intentions of retiring there.
And that's a good intention to have, because in this day and age, it's understandably so that not everybody stays in one place for longer than 2 or 3 years now.
Right.
They're always moving around. No one stays for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Right? Well, once upon a time, business would change every 10 years, went down to 5. From 5 went down to 3. From 3 now goes down to every year, because everything is changing so fast you can't catch up. It's like with the latest TV. Once you buy the 55-inch, the 65-inch comes out because it's at a better price. Time you get the 65-inch, the 75-inch is coming out. No, I think there's a 102-inch TV. Trust me, I would want to get that 102-inch TV. You know, doesn't mean I'll have a house to live in, because my wife will probably now. But what are we doing? Have we forgotten the what are you're not saying what you're looking for. You're not really saying it, because you're putting it down. We're giving you what you want, but and then it's not what you want.
Right. I mean,
like, why would you change what you said it yourself? They're changing the aspect of the job description at midstream because of what you're giving them. So because of me, because of what you gave them, now they want to change it.
You know, every aspect of that position, again, was something that I've already done. I mean, I can't imagine any other candidate that has an advertising agency background, that has an audio engineering background, that has a music composition background, that has a news production background.
You checked all the boxes.
There was nothing that they wanted me to do that I didn't already do in my past, you know? And then as the cherry on top of this, I actually performed the job for them. And I didn't get it.
That means that you would have probably done the job better than they had anticipated or planned it out in their head. Or again, and listen, I may be talking shit, right? Maybe. But I've seen it. I've seen people step over other people to get to a position because they didn't care about people. I'd rather grow with someone in time, be 10 years in a company and be, 14 years at BBDO. I personally think that if COVID didn't happen, you would have continued to be at BBDO.
Yeah, I truly, you're right. Yeah.
I truly believe that. You know what? I see, but you have something more that I don't have. My background has always been operations. I like being behind the curtain. I like putting the right pieces together. I knew what engineer was good for this person to do this project. I knew who was able to deliver that project because they needed it right away. I know that I wasn't going to get no pushback as I got to be home. I got to do this. They would get it done. And we would speak about it and we would talk about it. And if there was any inclination that there was something in their life that they couldn't accomplish because of their personal life, we would have figured something out where they would have gotten help.
Right.
In other words, at any cost, we would have got the job done, but collectively. We failed together, we accomplish it together. We do both.
So I guess the question is this the way it's now going to be, when you go on an interview? Is it going to take several months? Is it going to be, 5, 6, 7, 8 interviews? Are you going to have to perform the job before potentially getting it? Is this the way it's going to be, at least in our industry? Is this the normal now?
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's a question to ask. And I would like to get an answer from people that know.
Yeah.
Right? Because we know tons of people that have been CFOs of companies that had their own companies. What was their thought process? And can they gauge if their process will still be the same now?
Right.
It's tough questions to ask. But it has to be asked and answered in a way, because there are a lot of good people out there right now struggling. And you know what? I struggle, you struggle, but we make things happen, right? I still
Yeah.
get to pay my mortgage. I have to work a little bit harder at it. I have to do stuff that I don't want to do, meaning I have to take different jobs that I wouldn't have taken in the past, but I still do it.
Right.
Would I love to go back to the industry that introduced me to what it is to have a career? Hell yeah, I want to go back to that. Hell yeah, I want to go back to that. Yeah, I want to be part of something. Yeah, I want to be able to come in and smile and make everybody laugh while we're doing work, because it wasn't only me. You know how
Right.
some people, everything is me, 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 me. No, I so let that go a long time ago. I enjoy doing it with other people. I enjoy that happiness of getting that project done together.
Yeah.
It's
And for me, like the whole creative aspect of what I did, I do get to do that with my freelance work, and I do appreciate that. And you know, it's video production, something I haven't done professionally before. And I love
right.
it. It's so great. But while as a BBDO, like my creative outlet was a daily thing, being in the studio, directing talent, punching up scripts with the writers, working directly with the engineers, coming up with jokes and making things funny. And
That interaction with the engineer is priceless.
yeah,
Hey, listen, me being in a room and seeing these audio engineers interact with the producers and everybody around it that made it happen, the schedulers, the everyone, everyone. Post was meant to be something that you've done collectively. Yeah, there's certain things that you have to create on your own and you have to accomplish because that was your responsibility, right? But is it a bad thing now that we're saying that collectively we could do it together? I'm I'm I'm
certainly
I'm,
not.
I'm so mind boggled that I just don't know anymore. And it's sad because I hear people that, they want to take good talent and throw them cheap money to get it done. And they do it
Right.
because they have no other choice, right? But they're selling themselves short because they don't. What happened to the editor that was just editing, right? And the editor is the main guy. He creates the story, right? But now the editor has become the sound guy, has become the script writer, has become. So we've taken, it's like an iPhone, right? We have an iPhone. There's 10 things on this that at one point we had a separate thing for each one.
Right.
Now it's all in one. Have we gotten that accustomed to it that now we're being that? Do we
Maybe.
have to become a do we have to become an iPhone? Because I know my limits. I'm not an audio engineer. I'm not a video editor. If I have to learn it, can I? Of course. But that's not my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
My wheelhouse is being behind the curtains, getting the clients in, discussing money, deals, business, who we're going to put on it, how we're going to maintain that schedule, how we're going to get it done at that time, how we're going to get it on budget, make sure we don't go over budget, keeping everybody in line. That's my wheelhouse. And the ability to talk to whoever and whenever. That's a knack. Not everybody
Yeah.
has that
Oh God, no.
because there's some editors that can't talk a lick to a client. They would send them in a tailspin with the shit that they will tell them.
Stuff that they don't need to tell the client.
They need to know. Right. Not everybody has that ability.
Yeah.
So where are we now? Where are we now? Now we're at a place where we're questioning, as for me, was it not real that I accomplished these jobs beforehand? And you're telling me with your approach that I can't? It's
That
tough.
that yeah, that is
It's tough.
tough.
It is tough,
Well,
but you know, it's tough.
I hopefully as we continue with this, things will, become clearer and crystallize, and hopefully we can get some
Listen,
answers.
I want to break it open because I do know people in HR for big companies. I know a president of, director of human resources for a big company in the city. And we also said that we're going to open this up to promote people that are looking for jobs that we know.
Right.
I definitely want to do that. I want to pay that forward. I want to be able to give them that opportunity. I don't want to be so selfish and say that this is just about us. This is something bigger. And if there's anything that I could do to help anyone, I will do it. That's my place. And I've said it. Look, we're doing this. And what was the first thing I told you? Hey, listen, if the bonus comes out of this that we could get something out of it, great. But I'm not arguing about money. I'm not arguing about fame or whatever it is. However you want to categorize, however you want to place it, however you want to just put a label on it. My goal at the end of the day, are we the only ones going through this? I don't think we are, but I definitely want to speak to the people that are going through it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well,
the business has changed. We know that.
It
But
has.
a lot of it was COVID. Listen, imagine the people we spoke about this. The intent of this podcast was now that COVID is lifting and people have reconnected with their families, are people willing to go back to the life of 15, 16, 17-hour days and not being home? How's that going to affect people that have been accustomed to doing that all the time, but now they've been home and visual to their kids, to their pets?
Yeah, exactly.
How do they go back to that life after doing this a year and a half? What tailspin is that going to take them off? Where do we go from here?
And I think with that, we're going to call this an end to episode 3.
Yes, sir.
I'm exhausted.
Not sure if I'm depressed or not, but
no, there's always a silver lining. I'll just
There
let you
is.
know whenever I find it.
Yeah, well, I gotta tell you, and we'll end it off this way, is I want to release this episode for the fact that I think you should have gotten that job.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
I really think you should have. And whoever's listening to this will probably say the same thing. The support that you have with your wife and your kids, your sister. I like to get your sister on here.
Oh, she's fantastic.
I think, because it sticks in my head what she told you. You're in the running until you're not in the running.
Yeah.
But I think we'll build on this and we'll find out the answers to those questions. But I am going to leave you with this. I don't care who it is. Don't doubt what you got. You got something. And you got what most people don't. And we're going to build on it. Wherever we take this, we're going to let people know who Chris Cassar is.
Oh, dude.
And that's where we're at.
I appreciate that.
So we'll end it on that note. And we'll take it to the next one.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Alrighty.